And then once you have found an estate planning attorney that you can trust and that you would like to use for your estate planning documents, then you can get to planning. You can get to putting together your estate planning documents. And your estate plan is going to be made up of several different documents. And obviously, the more complicated things are in your financial life, the more complicated your estate plan is going to look. Now, everybody needs a will, right? Especially if you have a spouse or children or things like that, you need to have a will, right? The last will and testament, you need one. That way you can say what should happen to your children and any assets that you may have if you were to pass away, and let your spouse know what your last wishes are. So that is obviously extremely important, but that should be a part of every single one of our estate plans, right? We should all have a will. And so will is a legal document that tells other people what you want done with your possessions when you die. Every adult needs to have one of these, like I just said, right? Even if you don't have much to pass along, you'll still save your family tons of time in probate court, right? Like I said, this can be a time-sucking process. This can be a costly process. And so we want to eliminate that if at all possible. And then also making a will is fairly simple, right? And it leaves you with peace of mind as to, what will occur when you are to be gone. And, there's something that you do need to know about, though. Your will does not determine the outcome of certain assets, which includes things like your retirement accounts, annuities, life insurance, things like that. Each of those has to have a named beneficiary. And that beneficiary is not going to be trumped by the will, right? The beneficiary that is named is the beneficiary that needs to be in place. So if you have to, go back and look at who your beneficiaries are and make sure that that's who you want to receive that money, then you need to go back and check on that before finalizing anything or before even moving forward with your estate planning documents, because that is so important. And like I said, trumps anything within your will. Now, apart from a will, there's also the idea of a living trust. Which is similar. It's very similar to the idea of a will, but you transfer your money, property, investment earnings, and other items of value into the trust while you are still alive, hence the living trust, right? At that point, you don't own whatever you've put in the trust owns it, right? You appoint a trustee, someone who manages the trust and has to give approval before any type of big changes are made within the trust. And this can be expensive. When I talk about expensive estate planning documents, this can be one of those that costs you a pretty penny, but it can be well worth any cost. Because if you have a large estate, this adds a layer of legal protection to your estate when you die. Your trust does not have to go through probate court at all. And also your trust is private, right? While a will is public, right? No one except your beneficiaries will know what you have given to others. And that's extremely, extremely useful and helpful. And it can allow you to make all of your decisions from beyond the grave in the best way possible for you. And the thing about trust, you can be extremely specific. With trust, you can make the most specific designations that you want to and contingencies upon people receiving certain types of inheritances and things like that. You can do all of those things within a trust and make it as personable as you want to make it. And this is, like I said, a costly process. It is a costly thing to put together, and it's a bit more of a headache than a will is, but it can reduce the headache of those that you leave your assets to and your trustees and the executor of your will and things of the like. And so a living trust could definitely be a part of your estate plan, especially if you are somebody who has a larger estate. Then there also need to be power of attorney documents, okay? And power of attorney documents, they differ a bit from the will and the living trust. The power of attorney documents give someone the legal authority to make financial or healthcare decisions on your behalf. This is important as you age because no one can access your financial accounts without prior permission. And that permission is this power of attorney that you can sign over to someone. There are two main types that you need to know. There's medical and financial power of attorney, and you can appoint the same person to serve as each. So it needs to be somebody that you trust. This needs to be somebody that you can put in place and know that they are going to make the decisions that you would want them to make and that you would want made for your money and for your medical decisions. Because again, if you're incapacitated and you can't make those types of decisions for yourself, somebody has to be there, or else things can just crumble without anybody managing and being on top of what is going on. Now, that financial power of attorney can help you manage money, access your accounts, or act with legal authority to manage your financial affairs on your behalf. So pretty straightforward, right? They can do things with your money if there is some reason that you can't do it yourself. Now, financial power of attorneys can also do things with your money even if you can do things with money by yourself, right? You could just be older, right? You could be somebody who's older and has signed a financial power of attorney, and you have, one of your kids or your, grandkids or somebody you trust deposit checks for you or sign things for you or whatever it may be, something that you need in place in order to make sure that you can do the things financially that you need done. And then a medical power of attorney makes decisions about your medical care when you're unable to make them yourself. For example, if you have an elderly parent, like I said earlier, that has Alzheimer's, dementia, anything like that, this can be helpful for making decisions about their care since they're not able to process information that is brought to them properly. And so this can be a really, really useful thing. If your parents are aging and they definitely need one, then you should get this type of thing in place. This is really, really important as people age and as their ability to do things autonomously dwindles. And so I need to really stress to you guys that it is important, right? I would say the will is number one, and then you need to have these power of attorney documents. The living trust may fall a little further down the list than where I put it because the living trust, it is also going to depend on the amount of assets you have, whether or not it is really going to be useful for you. But the power of attorney documents, regardless of the amount of your financial nest egg, your power of attorney documents are going to play a huge role in making decisions for you over time.